to RedBlack Channel. I'm Trang. Today we would like to talk about working problem when foreigners and Vietnamese people work together in the company. Next, let's watch a video about a girl working in an international company.
Hi, my name is Kim. I studied MBA by English at National Economic University. After 4 years, graduated from school with soft skills, I applied for so many international companies. Despite having good English skills with soft skills at work, I still can't achieve what I want because of inferiority complex.
After watching video, we conducted some interviews with foreigners who working in the Vietnamese company and Vietnamese people working with foreigners. Now let's move to the interviews. Hi.
Hi. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, so now we will start the interview, right?
Yeah. Yes, my name is Daniel, and I'm from America, specifically California. And yeah,
Yeah, now you work as a...
now I'm an English teacher in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Yes.
At the moment, I live in Hoan Kiem. Hoan Kiem
Juan Kim
district, yes. Very close to the Opera House. Yes.
Near the center of the city.
Near the center of the city, yes.
So, how long have you been there?
I've been in Hanoi for about,
Wait, what?
November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So 7 months or something?
7 months. And what about in Vietnam?
I've been in Vietnam for 1 year and 2 months. Yeah. So I chose Vietnam because I wanted to drive a motorbike from one end of the country to the other. So last year, in April, I came to Vietnam and I bought a motorbike. Actually, I flew into Ho Chi Minh, I bought a motorbike, and I drove it over the course of the next 5 weeks. I drove it to Hanoi. Yeah. So that was my goal, to drive from one end to the other. I went from Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi. And then after that, I wanted to stay in Vietnam for, my plan was 6 more months. And to work and experience the Vietnamese culture, eat the different food, and just learn about the differences between our two countries.
Yeah.
So I suppose the number one difference would be the language used. In my country, we speak almost exclusively English. Almost everyone speaks English, whereas in Vietnam, everyone's speaking Vietnamese. And then also, as far as I know, in Vietnam there are different dialects, right? So the Southerners speak different than the Northerners. Yeah, so that's one of the differences. The other difference that it's very noticeable, is with the traffic, specifically motorbikes. So in my country, most people don't drive motorbikes. We drive cars, trucks, an enclosed vehicle, versus in Vietnam, most people drive motorbikes or motorcycles. That's another difference. The food is also different. It seems that in my country there's more of a variety. There's not like in Vietnam, there's one specific type of food, and this is Vietnamese food. Whereas in my country, actually, Americans, there's not very many American specific types of food. We take food from all over the world. So, yes, so the variety is different. Let's see, another difference.
And people, how about people between two countries?
Yeah, so the people in Vietnam, I think they're more tolerant of each other. They seem to be more understanding when someone is not paying attention to someone else. The example that I gave you earlier was, if someone's at a stoplight and they check their phone and they're on Facebook Messenger, if you do this in my country, the people behind you will be very angry. But in Vietnam, no one cares. They probably won't even get honked at. Everyone goes around. But as I said, in my country, people would be very angry, honking, yelling.
Yes.
Yes, things like this.
About at work, we want to ask you about the office hour. Like when you start and when you go home.
So for most jobs, so there's a labor law. We have very strict labor laws that are enforced. So, it varies from state to state, I believe, but I think 8 hours is a typical day for someone. 8 working hours, and then you get 30 minutes or 1 hour for lunch. It depends on your job.
Yes.
And then we work 5 days a week. Almost everyone works 5 days a week. So normally we work 40-hour work weeks, and that's it. And if you work over that, normally you get overtime, so 1.5 times your pay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I experienced a few culture shocks. Again, probably the main culture shock was the language. But I do remember coming off the plane, taking a taxi into the city of Ho Chi Minh, and I was very hungry, but it was difficult for me to find something to eat. So I don't speak Vietnamese,
Yes, of course.
and I can't read Vietnamese, and most of the people that were selling food in the area that I was in did not speak English, and so I had to walk around looking for food. Also, the walkways in Vietnam are not as walking places is not as easy. Places are not as accessible, at least where I was. So yeah, that was the culture shock for sure. The food, the language, and then also in the working environment, people are not as formal, and they're not as professional as I've experienced in my own country. So
how do you get over it?
it just subsided, and you just kind of gotta suck it up, you know, and you have to be less ethnocentric and more culturally relative. That's something that you have to do, but it can be very difficult.
Yeah, I know.
It can be very difficult, but it just subsides after a while. I mean, you either,
And you have to like, get used to it.
right, well, you either get used to it or you go home.
Okay.
I didn't want to go home, so I just got used to it.
Okay.
As I said before, they're less professional and less formal, I think. So my relationships between me and my colleagues are less formal, less professional for sure. And also the relationship between the people that work, the employees, and then the customers is also less formal.
Yes.
So it seems like it's more of a friendship versus a professional customer-employee relationship. Yeah.
So in your country, if there's any like punishment
Yeah, so there are punishments, and they seem to be less. So in my country, the authorities, the management, is, I think they're less tolerant of people being late or people being sick, or just the other various excuses that someone might give for breaking the rules. Versus in Vietnam, people seem to be more tolerant and understanding of someone if they're sick or if they're tired or whatever other reason you might be late or miss work or something. Yes, in my country, if you're late, normally we have a write-up system, so if you're late, it's documented, placed in your folder, in your file, and then if it happens too many times, you're fired. Versus in Vietnam, I've never been disciplined, so I don't know, but I assume it's the same, but I think that it takes longer to get fired. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I feel uncomfortable. And again, I try and be culturally relative about things, and sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between someone who's being rude or who is angry at you and someone who is just they're just being normal, or maybe it's the language or the dialect that they're using. So yeah, sometimes I feel uncomfortable. Maybe I feel like someone's being too pushy or something. For example, sometimes in Vietnam, when they bring you your check, they'll stand right there and look at you. And in my country, they don't do that. They drop the check and then they walk away. So that makes me feel a little bit uneasy. That's just an example of a difference and something that makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
So what about in working environment?
Working environment. Sometimes the less formal, unprofessional relationships between people makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Sometimes, for example, I'm a teacher, and so the children are allowed to do things that in my country, most likely they would not be allowed to do. So that can make me feel a little uncomfortable, especially if a kid is doing something that I think is dangerous.
Yes. So what about with people who work with you, like your coworker?
Yeah. No, I feel pretty comfortable because it's less formal. But language, like I said, it's really difficult to distinguish between a cultural difference and then a difference that's imposed purposefully. You know, it's just difficult for me. So I always try and just take it easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Hi, my name is Thuỳ. I'm a 27 years old Vietnamese, and I completed my high school in Vietnam and my bachelor degree in Switzerland in hospitality and event management. I recently completed my Master of IT in Australia, and I'm now working at an IT service analyst. I'm currently living in Australia. I've been here since 2015 after I finished my bachelor degree in Switzerland. One of the reasons why I chose Australia is because of the city of Melbourne. When I did my research online, I found out this is the most livable city in the world for 5 or 6 years in a row, and that's why I picked Australia.
How about the people?
The people here are quite casual. They are really nice and friendly. I have really good experience here as well with the people. Yeah. So there are a lot of differences between the two countries, but however there are a lot of similarities such as the working hour, In Australia, the working hours are between 8 to 9 a.m. until 4 to 5 p.m. Pretty much standard business hour. The people here are quite casual, and you can just grab them on the street and ask them about anything. Unlike in Vietnam, when people are pretty shy when talking to a stranger.
How about foods and traffic?
The food here are quite international. You have plenty of kind of food, from Asian food to classic, authentic European food. There are a lot of Italian and French restaurants here as well. For Australian food, I can't really think of anything special unless they have kangaroo meat, which is one of the national, animal. Yeah, but they do eat it. Yes, they do.
And how about the traffic?
The traffic in Australia, when I first came here, it was really good. But after a couple of years, I believe that there have been a lot of immigrants coming to the city of Melbourne, and also people from other states who migrated to Melbourne. So now, you don't really want to drive to the city area during business hour because of the traffic. I normally take train to work because it's the best way to do, to go to work. So before I came to Australia, I've been living abroad for about 5 years. I lived in Switzerland for 4 years, and during my time in there, I also did a 6-month internship in the US. I never had culture shock in Australia because I had the experience from my previous places. But a culture shock experience, I can name one from my internship in the US. When I first came to the US, I didn't know about the tipping, culture over there. So when I go to a restaurant and then I just order a normal burger, and I forgot to pay my tip, and then the waitress, she looked at me in a very unfriendly way, and then she literally just told me straight to my face that you have a tip. So yeah, I never got that experience before, and I think that's a culture shock for me. So about working manner, it's pretty much the same in all the country in terms of expectation from the employer. However, the difference between Australia and Vietnam is whether you are going to get punished for, having a good manner or not. Back in Vietnam, I used to work there for a couple of months, and I've seen a lot of people who have good working manner, which is normal, but for those who don't have a good working manner, I don't think they get punished at all. While in Australia, you often will get a warning from your manager, or it could lead to severe consequences. So the working culture in Australia is quite different from in Vietnam, because Australian are quite, let's say, they have a lot of Western value in them, so they are pretty similar to those in Europe or in the US. The power distance between the manager and the employee are not that big of a gap as well, because in Australia, the employee pretty much can just say anything to the manager they want. If they don't like something, they can just stand up to it. Whereas in Vietnam, the manager, they can be quite bossy sometimes, and the working culture there is like you are not allowed to stand up to your boss at all. So it's more of a robotic way. So whatever they say, you just do it without asking questions. In Australia, I feel really comfortable working with my boss because they seem quite caring about how the staff feel, and you get to do a performance review about your manager as well. So sometimes they can be scared you. If they don't get good feedback from the employee, they might not get good score, when they do the performance review with the HR department. Other than that, in Vietnam, I found that the people, they like to, let's say, have some beers after work, which is the same in here. The difference is, in here, I didn't see a lot of people who drink and drive, which is a very good thing that we need to learn from them. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty similar, to be honest. Yeah, yeah, it's just the power distance between the manager and the staff, and how we work together as a team is different.
So I will to summarize all the information we have the interviews with foreigners and Vietnamese people. Firstly, about the foreigners, they talk with us that he had so many things, and when he living in the Vietnam, so the most important about him talk with us that is a culture shock in Vietnam, like the traffic. And second, about the Vietnamese people. When he living in the America, he have the culture shock about the tips, and the people in the America, if don't have the tips, they will very unfriendly with the other people. That is all about culture shock. He said to me that.